I want to suggest that our continuing work and the support evidenced from those of you who are here provide additional expectation that we will rise to meet the challenges facing all of us. As we all know, more than a decade ago, we started the enterprise we called America's Wetland. And as we have seen on the big board then, and as we see tonight on the screens around us, we declared that Louisiana was losing a football field-sized parcel of land each hour. That wetland story and our metaphor has become the common way to describe the urgency for coastal Louisiana. The cause is equally as urgent today as it was then. High tides bring water over roadways in our low-lying parishes. Storm washes away waterway embankments, and the threat of larger storms in the future will mean greater segments of our state will be lost to the waters of the Gulf. However, we are more confident than ever that the nation does in fact know of our predicament and the monumental work needed to achieve a sustainable coastal system. As to Louisiana, the results of a 2014 statewide survey established that 74% of those contacted called coastal erosion the issue of their lifetime. And they are also of a belief that the public-private cooperation is absolutely essential to establish a lasting future. Importantly, 75% of the leaders of organizations were of the same opinion, recognizing that the undeniable link between a strong environment and a strong economy. And 95% agree also that a cooperation is the primary ingredient for success. As we all know, notwithstanding these facts, there are some who have little confidence as to whether we have a plan in place to do what is required. While that might be troubling, it is, in a sense, understandable, for we do face over 80 years of deterioration caused by multiple forces, both natural and man-made. And the road to restoration is complex, requiring cooperation, consensus among state and varying federal agencies to meet in many instances not just our concerns, but the mandates of Congress. To accomplish this, we have developed and gathered the best scientists and engineers in this field. And I can tell you that over the last 10 to 12 years, they have worked tirelessly to develop solutions which can and shall result in a comprehensive, programmatic action to address this disaster. This cannot be accomplished in short order and must be guided by discipline, focus, and yes, on top of it, a sense of urgency. I have witnessed the phenomenal readjustment of government over the last 12 years, and I give great credit to our legislature, 3 successive administrations, and those directly involved in the daily activities, thousands of them, for they have individually and collectively focused upon the larger picture by recognizing the need for a comprehensive analysis in the process, they have established order out of what would have been, I believe, total chaos. The master plan presents the case for that defined activity as it prioritizes the work to be performed and incorporates newly understood science and engineering. We are, in short, witnessing the remarkable example of the coalescing of governmental function and the adoption of science and engineering. We are light years way ahead of where we were even 10 years ago. And no doubt there will be another decades in the future. So there's a lot to celebrate tonight, and I hope that we will keep it in mind. One thing to remember as you mingle tonight is the fundamental question: what does the new Louisiana look like if we do nothing? If we let each interest have its own way, If we succumb to doubt, we are well on our way to doing the unthinkable by putting away our swords to cooperate for the common good. But we are doing phenomenal work, and it proceeds as we never thought it might. Barrier islands are being reestablished as we talk today. The work to define and establish diversions on the Mississippi and the Atchafalaya is in progress. But that work represents the long-term expectations for a sustainable system, as it would ultimately distribute assets from the very source that created us over time. Beneficial use of dredge material to be spread across depleted ecosystems is being implemented in critical areas, even as we search for new methods to minimize the cost on the one hand, and at the same time reach areas one thought as being absolutely untouchable. And at the same time, as you have heard, public-private cooperation, such as those implemented by the America's Wetland Foundation, is seeking to enhance the overall activity and the benefits of all of us. Cooperation, continual thought, non-wavering, they're all the critical pieces to get this done. So, as we say, I want to, at this juncture, to Rafael Gomez, who has joined us as our toast sponsor tonight, I want to thank him for all that he has done and said. We appreciate it more than you can imagine. We also want to thank our world sponsor, Shell, without whose continuing support as world sponsor, we would not have been able to reach this milestone and create the innovative public outreach that is recognized both in this country and worldwide. Our partner, ConocoPhillips, Chevron, and Energy are making grants to help start the demonstration project. And I also want personally and professionally to thank our most important partner, Ducks Unlimited, whose CEO, Dale Hall, is on our board and with us tonight. And finally, also the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, who agreed to work with us as a partner to find a new way to aggressively pursue that public-private restoration. Finally, I have the distinct honor to present honors to a number of individuals who have, in their own way, contributed to the restoration of this coast. Diana Pinkley was a strong coastal advocate. She was a friend of this foundation, and I want to ask my partner in life, the unbelievable wetland advocate, and a lady you may be surprised to know is my better half, to present the Lifetime Achievement Award to Diana, who unfortunately is no longer with us.
Thank you, King. And I do want to take this opportunity to compliment American Wetlands Foundation, not just the work that King has done, but Val and Sydney and so many of the staff and the board for what they've done over these many, many years. They were ahead of the curve. They are the ones who have really elevated this issue in the state of Louisiana and even across and throughout America. So, like others have said tonight, I applaud what you all have done, and I hope you just continue to keep your eye on the ball and implement that 50-year master plan. Thank you, Val, for all you've done. Today starts hurricane season, and if you're like me, you have a little tiny little anxiety within you, and I think perhaps that's one of the residues of Katrina, and as we heard tonight, mentioned so much from our Lake Charles friend, Rita. Each of us, I know, had to have been impacted in some way by this experience. There are positives and there are negatives for all of us. But for me, the positive side of the ledger for Katrina, the gift that Katrina gave me, were wonderful new friends, especially women friends, whom I bonded with and worked with and have associated for many, many years. They were women whom I felt would be with me until death do us part. Our honoree tonight is one of these special friends, Diana Pinkley, truly a Katrina gift. Not only to me, but to so many people who were rebuilding and refurbishing New Orleans post-Katrina. She's a transplant from Tennessee, but she became more native than native New Orleans. She embraced and loved Jazz Fest, never missing a beat there. She attended every neighborhood market, knowing the local vendors there, the best jewelers, craftsmen, artisans. She loved New Orleans culture and just absorbed it all. She was smart, witty, irreverent at times, tenacious, and she gave of herself in a quiet manner, truly self-effacing professionally and as a volunteer. Pre-Katrina, she built up a fabulous PR firm. She was known as a communications strategist, and her clients, primarily educational institutions, were across America. But in 2005, Katrina called her to the front lines of advocacy on behalf of her beloved adopted city. And how grateful I and so many are for this. Along with 8 other women, 2 who are here tonight, Nancy Marsiglia and Bev Church, Pinkley, as she was known to all of us, became part of the executive committee team of the Women of the Storm. Many of you, I know, have heard of our organization, but it's a non-political, non-partisan organization made up of diverse women from metropolitan New Orleans and South Louisiana with a distinct mission. Our mission was to draw the attention of Congress, media, policymakers to the plight and needs of New Orleans and the region post-Katrina. Our mission was threefold: to let them know that we had to rebuild our homes, we had to feel safe and secure, so we had to rebuild the levees, and last but not least, and what we're here tonight about, is we recognized coastal restoration was a priority. Each of these women have met every Monday morning at 8:30 a.m. for over 8 years, addressing the challenges and needs of our city and region. Each of these women gave their time, talent, and resources for the betterment of the whole. Pinkley, however, she just had more talents and more gifts to share with us. And I say this in all humility and honesty, she was a superstar. Week after week, month after month, year after year, she used 21st century technology to unravel every fact, statistic, and anything that was needed for the task at hand. It was extraordinary what this woman could do. She'd sit at the table with her laptop. She could tell you, yes, how many shrimp were harvested in a year, but no, Pinkley could tell you what was harvested in a week. She could tell you how many barrels of oil passed across our coastline. She could uncover names, addresses, and emails of some of the most important people in our country. She was extraordinarily gifted in getting the information, the facts, and the figures, which she presented every week calmly and honestly. But in addition to that, she would take these facts and figures, and she was the one who was able to assimilate it all so that the women of the storm had the information and the materials when they went to Capitol Hill. She was the one who would package this material in such a way that when the women of the storm led repeatedly disaster relief tours to some of the most important people in our country, they were well prepared and well versed. This was her gift. She was able to do this, and she shared with all of us. But she also completed the cycle. Not only did she research and was the teacher, but she also was the one who wrote every press release, edited everything that was done and said by the women of the storm. She completed this circle. When she spoke, we listened. We listened with love and admiration. But death robbed us much too early of our special friend. Though the void is in our hearts is huge, she remains with each of us. Not a day goes by, I can promise you, that I don't say, what would Pinkley do? Tonight, I and her husband have on a button that was given at her funeral, which we all wore and which we all say, what would Pinkley do? And so when I was thinking about the remarks and things to share about Diana, what a beautiful person she was, how capable, competent, self-effacing, etc., I thought at my desk, what would Pinkley do? And resoundingly, I heard her say, Anne, enough is enough. Please sit down. I don't want anyone to talk about me anymore. So with that, and that was her personality, I'm going to ask her husband, John Pope, if he'd come up to receive this award. And maybe with him would be Bev Church and Nancy Marsiglia, women of the Storm who worked and loved Pinkley as I did. So on behalf of American Wetlands Foundation, it is such a joy to present this Lifetime Achievement Award posthumously for Diane Pinkley to her husband, John Pope, with lots of love and gratitude. Do you want me to hold it? You want to say anything?
Yes. Thank you so much, Anne. This means a lot because it honors work that Pinkley felt called upon to do. I'm really proud of the fact that I suggested to Anne after the storm, you know, Diana wants to get active in rebuilding the city. Maybe you could use her. Who knew? Because she had always been a high-powered volunteer, but the storm kicked her into a higher gear because she, like so many others, realized how fragile this whole enterprise is as far as fragile wetlands, the fragile culture, fragile food, stuff we need to celebrate, we need to preserve it. And that's what she set about to do. Her nickname in the Women of the Storm Executive Committee meetings was Google Girl, because she would use her laptop assiduously to find obscure data, to find the information that Women of the Storm needed to do their good work. I remain tremendously proud of her. I'm reminded of a line that Anne Frank wrote in her diary, I want to go on living even after my death. There is a little library in New Orleans named for her. Her face is on a coin at the Crescent City Farmers Market, which she led on the board. Her papers are at the Newcomb Center for Research on Women. And now I have this award. And I have this pin. What would Pinkley do? I think she'd be very proud. I know I'm very grateful. Thank you.
Thank you, Pope and Anne, and members of the Women of the Storm who are with us tonight. Quite frankly, it is because of their tenacity that New Orleans and the Gulf South became worthy of attention from Washington. What has followed is anything but remarkable in terms of attention to some of our needs. But Diana, thanks for keeping that train on the track and running. Now, most everyone who's had anything to do with the quest for coastal restoration has met a gentleman by the name of Ted Falgout. Ted served on and serves on the Governor's Advisory Commission with me. He has been the leader in trying to develop the rationale on a practical basis and has done so for the diversions of the Mississippi River. And we have done numerous things together, all of which reflects his common sense ideas and his ultimate challenges to the absurdities which on occasion we face when projects lag behind. He is the real deal, with an aquacultural reserve, or as we call it, an alligator farm, resting along the GIWW. He has seen the ravages of erosion and salt water as he has personally put together that remarkable port in South Louisiana. So I am honored. I can think of no other person who deserves it more than to obtain and receive the America's Wetland Foundation Lifetime Achievement Award. If you're here, which you are, where is he? Is he hiding? Come up here.
Thanks so much for this very prestigious award. It is a lifetime award. I hope I don't have to surrender my lifetime here for receiving this award, but there's so much more I want to do. So I guess the main reason I became involved with the America's Wetland organization was that, I'm a true believer in that awareness will be the key to this country and this state having the will and the funding necessary to address, this catastrophic land loss we're experiencing in coastal Louisiana. And, this is a very complex and far-reaching issue, and sometimes it gets very frustrating to deal with some of the things, and King mentioned that I'm more of a let's build it and get it going kind of guy. My experience in Port Fourchon and having being part of growing this port from a small fishing harbor to this nation's most significant energy port, having the experience of building thousands of acres of wetlands by beneficial use of dredge material, being chairman of the LA1 Coalition, having over, and Henri is here, who is the executive director and does all the work, and I take all the credit. But, having over $360 million of construction already in place and more to come. I think seeing that, it's very clear that, I want to see things built. I don't have a high tolerance for just procrastination, and I feel sometimes we study things just a little too much, And I guess if through the Wetlands, America's Wetlands Foundation, we certainly have created this general awareness of land loss and how important it is. We have strong support for that. But, once you get into the weeds and go into more project-specific issues, unfortunately, sometimes the support starts to splinter. And it's mostly by very vocal minorities that, have or perceive they will be impacted by a project. And certainly diversions, which is most dearest to me, and my thoughts on diversions have always been expressed to King and others. But, for the last 40 years, every scientist, every group of scientists, every document that you've read about coastal restoration has pretty much said we have to use diversions as a major tool in our restoration effort. Yet, over 40 years later, we still haven't had the will to put in a major diversion in this state. And one would think that if that's the way we deal, if that's the urgency we deal with crisis, we'll just never be able to do the things necessary to get where we need to be, where we envision being in coastal Louisiana. So, again, I challenged America's Wetlands and the other NGOs to focus more on these next 2 years. You know, the state, the master plan over these next couple of years will be focusing in on these major diversions, and there will be challenges. And America's Wetlands, other NGOs need to team up and face these things, get very aggressive, get head on, and hopefully we'll move. It is time to build. So thank you very much for this award.
He tells it like he sees it, which is wonderful. Well, finally, I want to recognize a very special achievement award to a native of Baton Rouge and a rabid Tiger fan, so we're in the right place. If you know Andre Morrow, Andre comes from a long line of families that has served the public well. More importantly, Andre brings the news to millions in Baton Rouge, and I've got to say, has spent much time preparing and giving lengthy reports on the status of coastal restoration. He has done a remarkable job in the process. This is not an easy subject on which to report. As we know, the stories are often complex and without a good guy and a bad guy. But Andre has kept a steady drumbeat on these issues that are critical to all of us. So I want to present to him this honor, just as we were able to present a similar honor to Mike Dunn, who received it before he passed. And I hope, like hell, that's not a position that's going to happen tonight. But Andre, it's wonderful to have you here. We appreciate all that you do for us and for this state. And if you're present, which I know you are, would you please come and let me present this award to you.
Excellent. No gym needed today because of this. I just want to say a couple of things briefly. So honored that through my friendship with Val, he helped me become more aware of what was happening along the coast. And it's simply my duty to bring those stories to everyone. So that's part of what I do. In Googling just a few minutes ago, there's a mention that mappers cannot keep up with the changing coastline and the towns that are evaporating from Louisiana. We need to change that, stop that, and move forward in a positive way and bring the message home that this must be done, and I'll continue to report it as best I can. Thank you so much for this. It's a huge honor, for one thing, but really, it's just my love of Louisiana and the need for us to do something and make things happen to preserve and restore our coast, because time's running out. We're really way behind where we need to be, and we got to get this thing going, moving.
Why is it important that people get involved in this project to save America's wetlands?
Well, because we realize that we need funding beyond government funding. Billions of dollars are needed, and so that can come from corporations, individuals, everybody. The truth is, Louisiana as we know it won't exist 100 years from now if things continue the way they are.
Well, it's always great to receive an award, especially a Lifetime Achievement Award, recognizing hopefully things I've done in my lifetime, and I'm excited about tonight.
Why is it important that people get involved in the effort to save America's wetlands?
Well, I mean, our coast is in crisis, and if we don't create the awareness necessary for not only Louisiana, but this country to have the will and to fund and to make the hard decisions, because we have some very hard decisions to make if we're going to get real serious about trying to save coastal Louisiana.
As much as they can, they should write their legislators, get involved with environmental movements. They should be clean, and they should do whatever they can to preserve the fragile coastline. I think Katrina taught us that the erosion of the coastline eliminates speed bumps that can slow down the passage of a storm, so that it could do severe damage to cities.
Why is it important that citizens get involved at this time?
Because we're the ones who get flooded. And if not us, who? You have to. Because you have to prod agencies and government officials.
I think we've come a long way since '05. I think that the public has become aware of the importance of the wetlands. Now is the time for implementation of our 50-year master plan. And we need the political will, we need the people of this state to band together and say this is a priority. And so this is what I think for the next 10 years is that we've got to implement our 50-year coastal restoration plan.